friends, thank you for joining us on another episode of Why Jesus. Today we have with us Kevin from Toronto, Canada. Welcome to Why Jesus, Kevin.
Oh, I'm happy to be here.
Kevin, can you tell us a little bit about yourself before we go on with the show?
So my name is Kevin. I'm 16 years old and I'm in high school, and I'm trying to pursue what careers I'm trying to go after high school and post-secondary right now.
Kevin, what are your interests? What do you think you're likely to pick up?
I think right now I'm going towards the math and the chemistry side of things, so yeah, that's where I'm trying to put my preferences to.
Is there any specialty that you'd like?
I think chemistry is like a reason because I get to know what builds up our earth and what God has created and what substances that God has created in our earth. And math is like, I love to solve problems through math and numbers. I don't know why, it's always been a thing since birth for me, like since when I was young, that if I can use numbers, I could just find a way to make a solution for them.
I'm surprised that you said how God made earth. Now in the schools, a lot of theories come out with, scientific basis for the evolution of Earth and the world that we live in. So why do you believe that God created the Earth?
I believe science and God goes together. They don't contradict each other, and they shouldn't contradict each other. While you can be biased to one and you can side one to the other, they need each other, they intertwine. Science always has holes in them, and God and like creation story is like a myth to most people. I think together they actually help each other make a more stable theory of how God created the earth.
Now, when you say God created the earth again, how did you come to conclude that God did create the earth?
Such beautiful things, like it can't happen just by just random luck. I think someone master planned, articulated everything that happened that we all see today. So such a beautiful world that we live in.
Now, do you believe in God because of some personal experience that you've had, Kevin? Or is this something that, you've gone to Sunday school and they teach you God created the heavens and the earth and this is how it all came out to be? Or there was some specific reason that you personally believe, no, this is God, or you had this divine revelation?
I think from a young age, my parents introduced me to God. They showed Christ-likeness through themselves, and they said what is right, what is wrong. And then they put me into Sunday school and all that. I was little, I was naive, I didn't know much about God. But then once I started to deep within myself and meditate on God himself, I was like, I felt a deeper experience with God and much more deeper relationship with him too. So that's why I have a deeper, I try to be more with God, like pray with him, talk with him, and just have a deeper relationship with him.
Now, when you said that you had an experience of God, is that something physical, or how would you describe it to a person who has no idea of God or no clue? Because a lot of youngsters out there today don't believe in the supreme being at all.
When I experience God, every part of my being is comforted. When I think of God, God comforts you. He's there for you, and I think that's all you need. If you meditate on him, if you pray with him, if you give your time and effort for him, he will give it back to you. So that's why I believe in God.
Now, when you say you pray and meditate, for a person, like I said earlier, who does not know and wants to encounter that experience, what would you say are the steps to experience God?
It's not really easy. I'm not much of an expert myself, so I would just say you just start by one prayer a night, one prayer a day. Just make time for God in your time, and make more time as you get more closer with God. You feel, as you begin to experience God, your life begins to become brighter and better, and you'll notice that the differences in your life. So that's why I would say just give your time to God, and he'll give the time back to you.
Now, you mentioned giving time to God, Kevin, and you also mentioned praying. Now, how would you describe praying? Is this something that you just read out of a book? Or is it like there are certain prayers, I need to meet God today, so I read this prayer, and then, okay, day 2, I go for another prayer? I mean, how does that all work out?
I think the rule in my family is first thing we do is get down as a family and pray together. We always pray from the heart what we think. I first of all thank God for everything, a new day, a new opportunity, new everything. because none of this would be possible without him. So I try to give as much thanks to God and reverence to God as much as I possibly can. And then I ask for guidance from him. So in any way possible, not to go from wrong and try to go to the right. So that's why I do all that.
Now, when you say, you said you kind of pour your heart, is it something as simple as just talking to a person?
Yeah, it's just talking like that. Anything in your heart that you feel unsettled, uneasy about, give it to God, because God is the only one in the world that will listen and listen without being uninterrupted. He will give you, he'll listen to you, and he will not stop you and stop listening to your worries. He will listen to you, and he will give you opportunities to go away from those worries.
So Kevin, all the times that you've prayed, you said you pray and you spend more time with God. Have you felt that you've always been listened to?
There are many times I was like, why hasn't God answered me? Why hasn't God answered me? Then I realized there's always a time for everything. And sometimes God doesn't think this is the best possible solution for me. So then I believe if God hasn't answered it, it might not be his will. And that's what my mom always tells. If it's God's will, it will happen. So I just have to meditate and pray on that. If it's God's will, he will open that door for me.
Have you ever found it challenging within your social groups, your peer groups, to maintain that faith that you have in God when the belief system around you is conflicting?
Oh yeah, definitely. I think where I am right now, high school, it's the most diverse I can get at the moment in my life. And there's I have classes with 6 atheist, Islamic people. I have many diversities. They have their own faith, and I respect that. But that doesn't mean I have to show any less faith to it. I just have to show that I'm Christian, and I don't have to listen to other people's opinions about that either.
So when you said you have to just show you are Christian, is that a particular walk of life that you follow? What do you mean when you say I have to show that I'm Christian? What is it that you do differently? Is it anything different from the rest of them that you do?
I try to be as nice as possible. If that's compassionate, nice, all these words that you can describe Jesus as, that's what my parents said, Christ-like. Try to be as Christ-like as possible. And if I can show that through my actions, other people will see me. If they see what I do, they'll copy that. They don't have to believe what I believe. They just have to do what I do. Actions speak more than all this. So I believe that if I can help someone and someone else sees it, they might do that to someone else. And this chain will it will just keep going on, and it will make the world a better place.
Now, have you ever felt any kind of restrictions in what you could do because of your belief in God?
There are many restrictions, but as time goes by, I learn to overcome them. Because some of these things, I really don't need them. They're not necessities in life. It's only wants. And I just try to find other things that allow me to have the same amount of fun or any opportunities, but without breaking the laws of Christianity or something like that.
Now, what are some of those restrictions? Are they self-imposed, or is it that, oh no, if you need to follow your faith in God, you need to do certain things?
I would say Saturdays and Sundays are set apart for God, but most people, my friends, are set apart for themselves. So if they ask me to come for any social gathering, I'll be like, sorry, I can't make it because I dedicated my time to God. We have Monday to Friday we see each other, but Saturday and Sunday, I'm sorry, it's for God. So I can't break that law, and that's what my parents have ingrained into me.
Now, Kevin, have you ever felt left out, or do you feel like you're losing out on something that your friends are enjoying when you kind of set that restriction on yourself?
You will always have that feeling of being left out, but then you realize there are many opportunities that God will give you for even better. In youth groups, I get to hang out with other people and do better things for the world. With friends, I just have fun for myself. It's just self-desires. But for these, I help other people and feel better for myself at the end of the day too.
Now, have you been able to share this faith that you have in God with others in your peers or in your classes?
I don't think I would say like God did this, God did this. I would just say I'm thankful, I'm saved and redeemed in one other way. Because religion is like an iffy topic in like with all these peer groups, and I would try to stay away from certain religions because people have sensitivity about that. But I just say I'm saved and I'm like this because I was brought up like this. I was brought up like a Christian. I was brought up to be Christ-like. I was brought up to be compassionate, kind, and all this, so I can be a better person for others and for myself.
Now, is there any part of your faith in Christ or in God that you're not very comfortable with?
I used to not be comfortable, like I said, about the Saturday and Sundays. I was like, I want to experience a fun time with my friends, you know. But then I realized I dedicate my time for God, and I don't do that much now, and I think I should do more. But Saturdays and Sundays, if I skip out on that, I'm just leaving God for like nothing. So I don't want to do that. I need to give my time to Jesus, and because He has given His time for me, all like without arguments or anything. So I want to give my time back to Him and praise His holy name.
Kevin, now a very interesting question I'm going to put across to you. Now, recent times, Canada has become the second country in the world to legalize the use of marijuana, recreational marijuana, and it has been taken up by many youngsters. What is your take on that?
I can't say anything to stop them. That's all I can say. It's not like...
Do you think this is of benefit to the youth of today?
For me, I think it actually destroys them. Especially, so in my grade 9 religion teacher, teacher told me about his friend consuming all this, and his friend went mad. And this was like university time. Cannabis and all this, they wreck your mind. It's like a desire you want to reach again and again, but you fail to attempt. So it becomes an addiction, and it just destroys a person. I don't want that. So that's why people like Christians and I stay away from that. I want to be one with God, not one with like myself, and try to get that selfish desire.
Kevin, what is it that you youngsters face that makes the need for things like marijuana, alcohol, and other things that seem destructive very much a need?
Right now, stress is the biggest factor. Stress, anxiety. When you consume cannabis and all this, you get to a whole new norm where you're calm, you're just relaxed. But every time you consume this, you try to become, the first time you have it, it's like a whole new high. But every time you consume it, you don't get to that high. So that's why people consume it more and more, trying to get to that point where they first started off, but they can't. And they just became
overdose themselves to kill themselves. Now, how do you deal with the stress? So if people don't go in for these recreational or de-stressing methods that are used by the youth of today, which are very self-destructive, how do people who don't use it, like how do you cope up with stress?
Every time I think of like, oh, my friends are doing this, or people I know are consuming this, I'm like, every time I think I'm stressed, I would be like, I put my trust in God. God will open a door for me. Whatever maybe I'm struggling with, He will help me and guide me. So all my stress is gone. Like there's a comfort in my heart that begins to grow, saying God is with me, so nothing is impossible without God. So that's what I think.
Do you think there's a specific obstacle or factor that kind of hinders the youngsters of today from believing in God or believing in Christ, to be more specific, because you were talking about being a Christian and following Christ?
I would say most families are forcing their religion on them. Most families are already starting off as atheists, and most families are, I guess like most kids right now are just trying to stay with the worldly desires, and worldly desires strips away from the faith that we practice here as Christians. This is what Satan does. He just gives you temptations and worldly desires, and kids just grab that and they want that. So it's really easy for him to do that, and that's what tends to make kids nowadays stay away from religion or Christianity or anything that proves that there is something that oversees us.
What do you think is a solution for that, Kevin?
Most people who have been struggling with like all this and staying away, they come to an all-time low, and some people actually seek redemption, and they come to like these centers to help themselves. And some of them say, just pray, just pray. Read a Bible every day, pray. And then they'll be reluctant at first, of course, because it's not something they've done ever. But when they start doing it and they feel like the emptiness inside them is begin to fill up, it's like they begin to do it again. So their new addiction is to be one with God, to have a better relationship with God. So that's what I would say.
Now, you said to read the Bible every day. For a person who's never had any idea on the Bible, what would you suggest is a good way to start off? Like, it's a big book, where do you start? Or is there a specific, part that you start off with if you're starting out, venturing out to read the Bible?
I would say New Testament-wise, because that's what modern day people actually go by, and that's where Jesus is. And what Jesus has said, what Jesus has lived by, what Jesus has done, what his followers has done, what he has taught. So that's why I would say New Testament-wise, and just follow what he has done. And don't read the Bible literally. I want you to understand, question it to make a deeper understanding within yourself. And I would say that once you do that, you'll have more of a acceptance to God and what you have, and what he has done for you. And that's why reading the Bible actually helps, especially the New Testament.
Now, is there a favorite Bible verse that you have, or a favorite portion that you would say has really helped you?
I wouldn't say it's my favorite, but this is what I live by. So there's, I think in 2 Corinthians chapter 5, verses 7, there's one called, we live by the faith, but not by what we see. So we believe in a God that we cannot see. And I believe that's the strongest faith. We believe in some supernatural being that has created all this. And that's what I believe. It is a faith so strong that it binds you together and makes a bigger relationship with them. And most people who are atheists are like, they want to see this God, such as scientists now. That's why I said you can't have one from science and one from God. They have to intertwine to make a more mandatory, better relationship with that.
Kevin, has there been any person who has influenced your faith in God? Any inspirational figures?
I came to later know this, but I would say my grandfather, so my dad's dad. To me, I think from stories and how I met him and my relationship with him, he was the most Christ-like person I've ever known in my life. He was compassionate, he was kind, he was strict at times, but he was always kind. He never done anything wrong per se, and he always took care of his family, his wife. He has supported and provided for everyone. So he was a teacher too, so he looked after kids, taught kids. So I was just like, I think he's the ideal man for to be most Christ-like, and I think, wow, maybe I should be like him.
Now, do you feel like there is anything very, very important in today's world that needs at most change in your perspective?
I would say people's mind. So most people are narrow-minded these days, and I want to change that. You have to be open-minded. Most people tend to be on one track. They don't open ways to more tracks. And if they are that's how conflicts and all that happen in our world. All these wars and all these, because everyone is narrow-minded. If they have an open mind, you can listen to other people without questioning them. You can listen to all the other faiths without accusing them or argument of them. So it would make the world a better place if I say people need a more open mind.
Now, what would you say, Kevin, you as Kevin would be able to do to change someone's mind like that, to contribute to a little bit of change in the world today?
I would just say, if all these things, so to be narrow-minded, I want to change them open-minded. So I would ask them series of questions that question their narrow-mindedness, if one person was fixated on Christianity and just did nothing, and let's say science, and I said, if you fixate on Christianity, how can you explain all these things? Scientific, there's research, but you have to open your mind. Try to use other resources, because God is never wrong. You just need God made everything. So science is something that it came out of God. So if you use that, it makes a stronger basis and stronger fundamental to your reasoning and your arguments, and to responses back to people who question your own faith. So that's why I want to help them.
Now, besides all this talk of faith, Kevin, what do you do in your pastime? What are your hobbies and interests?
I'm really bored most of these days, so I probably, if I'm like really bored, I'll probably just play the guitar, try to find new songs.
How long have you been playing the guitar? Are you amateur or have you gone for lessons?
I used to go to lessons for like 3 years, 4 years, and then I stopped, and then I self-taught, and I think at that moment I learned more. And right now I have courses in guitar in school, so that helps a lot too with really good guitarists. So I actually, it helps with that too. So I think that eases my mind into playing songs like these.
Would you be able to play a song for us?
Yeah, sure. The song I'm about to play right now is called David Din Paidale. It is penned and tuned by Brother Dr. Matthews Verghese. And it is from the album Di Poleagam Tere Vajanam. And you can find it at wordtoworldradio.com.
Kevin, that was some great playing there.
Oh, thank you.
As we wrap today's show, Kevin, can you give any advice to the youngsters that will be of use to them in their pursuit of life?
All I can say is there's going to be many uncertainties in your life and many circumstances where you may question your faith and why all these bad things may be happening to you. But all I can say is God is with you through all this, and He does all this for a reason. And I just want to say, put your faith in Him, put your trust in Him, and He'll give it back to you. He'll do miraculous things for you. And that's all I can say for you.
Thank you so much for joining us, Kevin, on our Why Jesus show. I wish you the best of luck for all your future plans.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you, folks, for joining us on another episode of Why Jesus. Stay blessed until our next episode.